So one of the things, this conversation came out of a CIC committee that I'm on and Aaron is on, and we were talking about something that we needed to start talking about collectively, potentially in 2022. So again, as he said, I am the executive director of the Automotive Recyclers Association. I myself am a former auto recycler, so many of you I worked in, if you're in the collision repair, I took care of the collision repair industry. I'm also a very strong advocate for our industry. Now, I'm not professing to be an expert on total loss, but I know a few things about total loss vehicles, actually, the good, the bad, and the ugly parts. I can tell you that when someone goes through a loss, a total loss of their vehicle, many things are going through their minds. And right now, total loss is a very difficult thing for most people to deal with in the last couple of years. What I'm hoping is that we can generate some thought-provoking ideas about what both of our industries can interact on in 2022 that will make meaningful changes for both of our industries. So let's always remember, I kind of stole this from Jeff Peavey, so thank you, Jeff Peavey. Let's remember now, no matter what side of the issue we are on, there is a consumer who has suffered a loss, and it's our collective job to find a way to make them whole again. Jeff Peavey will always remind us, never forget that empty chair. We all serve the consumer. So let's delve into what is the cause of increased total loss. Well, it seems that it's grown substantially. One of the first interesting notes that I found during some of my research is that during the pandemic, total loss frequency and cost both rose. No surprise to any of you in business. So essentially, higher total loss frequency was occurring at a time when total loss vehicle values were also rising, which in turn drove up total loss costs significantly. But in all fairness, total loss frequency has been on the rise over the last several years in the United States as a result of our more severe weather. Higher repair costs were also a factor, especially among newer vehicles that typically have lower total loss frequency. And then there's the fact that the average age of vehicles on U.S. roads today is 12.1 years, the first time that that average has been higher than 12 years. So some of my research, I went and read the 2020 crash course report that CCC puts out. Very interesting. If you've not read it, you might want to try. But last year, they said 20.5% of vehicles were declared total losses, which means to you in the professional collision industry, you missed out on the chance to repair 1 in every 5 vehicles. But more importantly, that percentage has gone up 5% since 2010. In 2020, the average vehicle that was declared a total loss was $10,444, where the average repairable vehicle ACV was $16,657. For the most part, we all know that insurance adjusters are the ones who determine when a vehicle is repairable or declared a total loss. However, it's not always based on what they find in their inspection of the vehicles. Sometimes there are factors other than that weigh into the total loss distinction. So one would think that the decision to determine total loss is based on the fact that the cost to repair the vehicle exceeds the vehicle's actual cash value. But wait, that's not always the case, because insurers apply what is known as a total loss threshold, meaning the damage only needs to exceed a certain percentage of its value to be determined a total loss. However, in many cases, total loss is determined by state law. In fact, many states use a total loss formula, where the cost to repair plus the salvage value of that vehicle exceeds the value at the time of loss. So in states using the total loss threshold, while the average is 75%, there are extremes, where Colorado and Texas are at 100% ACV, Nevada, right here in Nevada, 65%, Oklahoma, 60%, and if you're from Iowa, I feel sorry for you because Iowa comes in at a 50% ACV for a vehicle to be declared a total loss. Now, I personally believe 75 to 80% is a much fairer percentage, but this is definitely something that everybody in this room should be concerned about. So making the determination to declare a vehicle total loss is a weighty decision at best for most of us. Think about all the factors other than state laws that are potentially considerations, such as, can the vehicle be safely repaired? Hopefully everybody in this room, that's your highest priority. What will the cycle time be to repair that vehicle? Often, even with the best repairs, there has to be a consideration of diminished value of the customer's vehicle, not to mention the loss of use. So what role does the possibility of supplements play in the overall decision of total loss? And something we have all seen and been affected by in the last couple of years, parts availability. As more and more vehicles are coming into our shops with advanced driver assist, will this mean more scanning and calibration? Yes, it's going to, and all additional costs that may push the vehicle over the edge. Required repair procedures not only affect cycle time, but in many cases, lack of those procedures will lead to total loss of repairable vehicles. And as the fleet becomes more electrified or use of alternative fuels increase, skilled labor costs will increase, leading to additional losses. The age-old question, replacement or repair, will continue to play a loss. And then salvage values continue to increase, and it's not unusual that those salvage values are hitting 50% or more. I want to stress that if you're not concerned about salvage value, you certainly should be. I know auto recyclers are, because we certainly cannot survive paying 50% ACV and stay in business. And just so you know, those vehicles are not coming to our facilities very often, but they are entering a gray market or being exported. So let's never forget the downside to total loss, and I hope that adjusters everywhere are listening, if there's any of you in the room. The consumer may be upside down on their loan and have no gap policy and will essentially be left holding the bag, so to speak, and no vehicle. Total loss does not mean end of life for all vehicles. The rebuilder industry is thriving at everyone's expense. There will be fewer and fewer vehicles being repaired by professional repairers. Not all total loss vehicles will find their way to a professional automotive recycler. And meanwhile, a shift in supply and demand is affecting businesses of all types. And according to the most recent U.S. Census Small Business Pulse Survey conducted mid-October of this year, 45% of businesses said they were having domestic supplier delays. And that number is up from 26.7 the first month of this year. It's going to get tough for people before it gets better. So the loss continues. Repairable vehicles will be repaired by someone. Title washing is epidemic in the United States, despite the fact that it's unethical and illegal. In fact, as many as 1 in every 325 vehicles on U.S. roadways today may be operating with a fraudulent title that's been washed in order to disguise its true damage, its flaws, or its real identity. So even though the U.S. has enacted the Real ID Act for people, it certainly hasn't transferred over to vehicles. Research shows that 1 in 5 vehicles are sold outside the licensed dealer network and are not legal private party sales, but illegal sales of curbstone vehicles. Curbstoning is essential, the flipping of vehicles, often posing as a private seller. Many of these vehicles have been purchased at salvage auctions by unlicensed entities, repaired, and usually not to any industry standard, then resold to some unsuspecting consumer looking for a good deal. It's not unusual to see these hustlers churning and flipping 20, 50, or more vehicles a year. So let's wrap this up with some key takeaways. Insurance companies decide when to declare a vehicle total loss. Some state laws determine when an insurance company declares vehicles total loss. 20.5% of vehicles were deemed total losses in 2020, and that number will surely increase. And what I consider the most important of all, total loss does not equal end of life. Thank you, SCRS, for hosting Ideas Collide, and Aaron for inviting me to participate. I look forward to continuing these conversations into 2022 regarding total loss and the repercussions to the professional collision repair as well as to the professional auto recycling industry. And I'd like to leave you with this little thing that I love that Henry Ford is attributed to saying, coming together is a beginning, staying together is progress, working together is success. Thank you.